And good afternoon and welcome to Straight Talk. This is your Drive at 5 show, and this is Catherine Tyson, your host. I hope you guys are doing well. Today is Tuesday. It is Hot Topics Tuesday, and of course, we talk about all kinds of things. We do have some guests today, which is also awesome because I love to have people in the studio that I can actually talk to and not be talking to myself because sometimes that can be a little bit much, especially when I try to answer. Private joke. Okay, so if you guys want to call 943-3700, we'd love to hear from you, whatever is on your mind this afternoon. Or you can always send us an email at straighttalk@star927kman.ky. You know what? You can also go to our Facebook page. It is Straight Talk Drive at 5, and you can see us streamed live. Or if you missed the show, you can always go and catch it or tell people about it, okay? And then you can share it. That would be awesome. Also, you can find us on Star 92.7 on Facebook as well. So go ahead and just like us, follow us, whatever it is that you need to do. Just support us. If you like what we do, we're entertaining you. We come on every day. We talk to you. You love what happens in the mornings at Star. You love what happens at 5 o'clock or during the day. Go ahead and support us. That's what we're trying to do now is support each other, right? It's a new thing. Let it be the new black. Yeah. All right, so it's Tuesday and it's Easter weekend. I know you guys are excited about it. I'm excited about it. I can't wait. Friday, Good Friday. It's a beautiful time. Not only is it Easter time and it's just amazing celebrations, but it's also a time for a break, a relaxation. I can't wait. It's going to be a long weekend. And so I already threatened yesterday or promised that I'm going to be stopping at some campsites. So make sure you got my little piece of chicken you're going to put on the grill because I'm going to be there, okay, for all that fishing and all that kind of stuff that we do, since that's what we do as Caymanians, right? And I love that. It's going to be awesome. So make sure you're staying safe and you're taking care of yourself because obviously we want to get back to work on Tuesday and be happy and be intact. Yeah? Thank you all so much for joining me this afternoon. I love to know that you guys are out there, you're listening, and you're a part of the whole process. We can't do it without you. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Daily motivation for today. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. That was Winston Churchill. I'll repeat it. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. Can you imagine? Basically saying we're not just here to get stuff, we're here to also share stuff, and to be a part of a community and take care of each other. That I love. I love that. And that's what we all should be thriving and striving to do. All right. So this afternoon in the studio, I have a couple of guests from the Ministry of Financial Services, and I will go ahead and just introduce them and start getting to this conversation with them this afternoon. General Registry's Head of Compliance, Paul Innes, as well as Miss Donna Stoddart, who is the Senior Compliance Officer. Good afternoon and welcome to Straight Talk.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon.
All right, so you all come bearing lots of information and gifts this afternoon. Gifts, where were the gifts? I was promised some gifts. Where's the gifts?
We have
Who
it.
has the
We have the
gifts?
virtual gifts here for you,
You have
Catherine.
the virtual gifts. I'll take it. Okay. All right. So, what are we talking about this afternoon? Talking about NPOs and outreach session. Let's go ahead, just
Yes,
start
ma'am.
it off, and you know what you came here to do.
Sure. So again, get the formalities out of the way. The registrar wishes to thank you and your team for allowing us this airtime this evening to further market our outreach session tomorrow evening. The registrar of NPOs, we are hosting one of our annual outreach sessions tomorrow evening in room 1038, the government admin building. Session starts at 6 p.m. and goes until 7:30.
All right. Okay, so that is tomorrow at 6 p.m. at the Government Administration Building, room 1038.
On the ground floor.
Who's invited to it?
Right. So all registered MPOs and those persons who would have RSVP, we certainly know that all registered MPOs aren't going to come. The feedback so far from our invitations have been quite good, but we certainly want to encourage those persons who have not, even if they have not RSVP'd, we want to encourage those persons out there to attend because it certainly will be a dynamic, interactive, up to date presentation. We're going to be focusing on the current trends within the NPO sector. We're going to be giving NPOs really good material on best practices and what we call capacity building. We're going to be sharing with them the latest information in terms of how to mitigate this thing called terrorist financing. We're going to give them the best practices of internal controls, corporate governance, all this good, juicy stuff about how to run NPOs
Okay.
effectively.
All right. Now, for us laymen, what's an NPO?
So,
Donna. All right.
okay, so an NPO can have a structure of a company, a trust, or more popularly, an unincorporated body of persons set up essentially for the public benefit. And there
Okay.
are different types of NPOs. So you have charities, you have sporting organizations, you have churches, so on and so forth.
Okay, so that's nonprofit organization, right?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Okay, so for those listeners, who might not have known like what that is, so
Hmm.
that's all nonprofit organizations, and you were just kind of explaining, what falls under that. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So
Yep.
there are
Okay.
many different types.
Okay. And so that's who you're inviting to this meeting, to this outreach session tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.
Indeed.
Okay. And every NPO, every nonprofit organization should try to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're certainly focusing on because we've been doing outreach sessions from 2017, and we continue to register MPOs every year. So the theme of this outreach is certainly focusing on those MPOs that registered between 2019 and present.
Okay.
Those ones that would have registered after we did the last risk assessment. We want to bring those persons in. For those persons who would have heard the presentations already, it would be certainly be a good, nice refresher. But we know there are a lot of MPOs out there who've never received this formal training from us.
Okay.
So we certainly want to encourage them to come out to hear what our best practices are because, again, this is one of our statutory responsibilities.
Okay.
Yep.
And so if someone might be interested in forming an NPO, could they also come out to this?
Certainly,
Okay.
certainly for those persons who are interested, and I'm glad you raised that topic because it just takes me back. Hearing you ask that question took me back to last year around the same time
Okay.
when the entire country went into lockdown. During that period, we saw several MPOs stepping up and rallying charity and really serving and providing services to the ever needed community during COVID. We also saw new registrations happening during that period as well because, as some persons would say, they had a calling to serve, so they wanted to create an organization to assist with serving. So we certainly want to encourage those individuals who are listening who have an interest in registering an MPO. Please come out. You can hear certainly firsthand what the requirements are when you do get your entity registered, what the ongoing obligations are as well. So again, this is very good, important information for those that are registered and for those persons who are thinking about forming an MPO.
Okay. All right. And so maybe we can chat about some highlights, in terms of best practices, just maybe a sneak peek at what they might be able to learn. Just if they're thinking about it, because I hear a lot of people saying, "I'm going to start a nonprofit organization." I hear
Yeah.
that being said a lot, especially
Okay.
since last year.
Right.
Yeah, and so a lot of people have no idea what's involved, the maintenance of it, like
Hmm.
all of that stuff as well. So maybe we can just talk about just some just basic things that someone might not even
Sure.
know.
So,
Donna?
just to add to Paul's point, if you're unable to attend the outreach session tomorrow, we will post the slides on our website. So if you
Okay.
go to the General Registry website, under Register, select NPOs, guidance documents, and it'll be there in a few days. In terms of best practices, so the outreach tomorrow is going to focus on compliance with the NPO Act, as well as best practices for governance. What we have found, especially in on site inspections, is that a lot of people don't know what their legal obligations are. As you said, they
Right.
register the NPO and then
Right.
they forget. So we're going to dedicate some time to pull key sections out of the law and really go through in detail what exactly your legal obligations are. So, for example, If you are appointed as a controller of an NPO, meaning that you're ultimately responsible for the operations of the NPO, you have a legal duty to ensure that one, you notify the registrar of NPOs of any changes, whether it be to your purpose, whether it be to your legal structure, whether it be to your address. Just keep us up to date, because if we are if we receive an inquiry from, for example, the Attorney General's office, that is where they will go to the system to check for the latest available information. Another key section of the law relates to the duty to submit annual returns. A lot of NPOs register and we receive nothing from them in terms of their financials, and that is an annual obligation to submit annual returns within 6 months after their financial year end. There are a few other key sections as well that we will touch on before moving to governance. So, really breaking down what governance means, really, to control, to direct, and the key components of governance. There should be, for example, in an NPO, there should be clear reporting lines, there should be transparency, there should be accountability, there should be proper risk and financial management, there should be proper record keeping. So, all of these things, going through them in detail and really trying to get people to understand that yes, it's an NPO for the public benefit, but we are to operate it, we are to run it as if it is a normal business.
Ah, okay. That's very good. Yeah, because I,
Yeah,
I think you're right. A lot of people don't realize that it is actually a business. Yeah.
it is. So I'll. She just provided the main course, so I'll provide the appetizer
Okay.
to
Well,
what
which one
you just
goes
asked.
first?
So in terms of registration process,
Okay, but I'm
again,
full if you give me the main course first and now the
well,
appetizer.
sometimes depending on the type of meal you get, you may want the main course first and then come the appetizer after. You've never been to
Maybe they
one of
do
these
that in
restaurants before.
Barbados.
Yes,
But we do the
yes, that's what
appetizer
we do.
first.
We get the cocoa flash fish first, and then we
Okay.
get a little biscuits coming after.
Okay.
So
All
it's
right.
worked
So, all
that way
right.
too.
All right. So go ahead. Give me what you got.
So in
Let's
terms of
hear
the
it.
appetizer for registration process, we've made it really very, very simple, Catherine. We have a Kimmer business portal. Everything is done electronically. You register for a profile on the portal and you proceed then with your registration. Your registration is simply you need to know the name of your MPO. You need to know your purpose and activities. What is it you want to do? How do you want to do it? Who is it that you want to serve? You need to have a constitutional document. That can be a very simple document in terms of so there are many different structures to NPO registrations. You have this thing called the unincorporated association of persons.
Right.
The three of us can come together and decide, you know what, we want to form an NPO to keep the streets of Grand Cayman clean in Georgetown.
Okay.
We can just do a simple constitutional document abiding by the rules, best practices. How do we register? How do we form our meetings? What forms is a quorum? All that good information. That information is provided on the portal along with a copy of a government issued ID, be it passport or driver's license. And you pay a small fee of $300. And if everything meets the required statutory obligations, boom, you have your MPO registered.
Okay. Really? Because I'm gonna. I don't know. I'm gonna go back a little bit on the appetizer just for a second.
Okay.
So it's not $300 for an MPO because you do have to pay the legal stuff, don't you? Because I'm trying to understand how it all works. Just if someone's listening and they like information
Right.
about it, because I think you just mentioned your cost,
Yes.
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
But that's not the cost, yeah.
Well, it can be. Again, it
Okay.
depends on the type of MPO you use.
Okay.
For the unincorporated associations of persons, we provide the templates of everything you need.
Okay.
So there's no legal cost associated with that.
Okay.
We give you a template for a constitutional document. You just need to fill in the information, and that can be your constitutional document. You don't have to go and pay a lawyer to draft it or anything like that.
Hmm.
Okay.
We've been through all that process with drafting the templates for you.
Ah.
So
Okay.
if you use the unincorporated association of persons, then that cost will be just the $300.
Oh. Okay.
If you want to go with more sophistication in terms of a trust, a partnership, or a company, you may be required then to consult somebody who has a legal background to draft your constitutional documents for you.
Ah. Okay.
So it really depends on the
Okay.
individual.
Can I ask you a question then?
Sure.
What would you consider the benefits of an NPO then versus just maybe getting a business license or just, just starting a business. Like what would be the benefits? Like what's the difference? Is there like a clear difference between an NPO and just regular business?
Yes.
Yeah. Can
And
we
the
talk about that?
fundamental difference is
Yeah.
one is for profit and one is not for profit.
Okay.
The NPO is for the public's benefit. You may be the person responsible for forming the NPO, but in truth and in fact, you have done that for the people's benefit. So you are accountable to the people
Okay. All right.
through the registrar of NPOs.
Okay.
So there's a level of obligations in terms of what your requirements are. You are required to treat the monies associated with the NPO for the purpose of non-profit organization, as opposed to with a business for profit making purposes, where you can pay yourself dividends and all these nice benefits if you have a business. With an NPO, you have to be a little more streamlined in terms of how you use the assets and the incomes. Yes, there are NPOs out there who have salaried staff, and you're allowed to do that. But you certainly aren't allowed to pay dividends. You aren't allowed to pay a bonus. You aren't allowed to have these exorbitant benefits for the board and the individuals who are running the organization. Your main purpose, all most of the money, if in some instances all of it, so we've seen some NPOs who do that. Your main, all of the main crust of your finances really should go towards your purpose and activities,
Okay.
which is for the people's benefit.
All right. Okay. Good answer.
Yeah.
So that, it was a
Mhm.
great explanation. The public's benefit.
Yep.
That's the difference. Yeah.
Exactly.
So everything that is made from the business kind of goes back into the benefit of the reason that you started it, which
Of
is for
course.
the public.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
I like that. That's good. Now, let me ask you. Tell me a little bit about your background. Obviously, Paul Innes. I said Barbados because I
Yes.
could hear Barbados.
Yes.
Drop 'em right out of you.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes.
And so I went to Barbados last year too, right before COVID.
Really awesome.
Yeah. So and I got a chance to see where your neck of the woods.
Right.
So you said you've been there since 2017. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So this is your background, that kind of general
Well,
registry
originally,
stuff.
well, I came to the island in 2005 as a police officer.
Oh, okay.
I worked
Every
with
Barbadian that
RCIPS.
came here came as a police.
I worked with RCIPS
Okay.
for until 2017.
Okay.
The last 9 years, I was with the Financial Crime Unit.
Okay.
So I was fully indulged and ingratiated in this whole thing called financial investigations. And unfortunately, on more than one occasion, I've had the not so privilege of dealing with organizations that were set up not for profit,
Okay.
but end up being for profit illegally for some persons.
Ah. So
Um,
you had a front
so
row seat at
clearly,
that kind of
yes.
stuff. Okay.
So in
Hmm.
2017, then I joined the general registry team and was responsible then for setting up the whole compliance regime related to NPOs
Okay.
and beneficial ownership and everything else
All right.
associated with that.
I was a police officer too.
I heard,
Long
I
time.
heard your story.
Yeah.
Yes,
My story.
yes,
Okay. So this Sergeant Fullerton talking about me
yes.
again.
I actually heard the interview with Mr. Fullerton that
He's so
evening.
awesome.
Yes.
Did he train you as well?
I dealt with him when I first came here. He was at training, and he did a lecture to me on more than one occasion.
Okay. Yeah.
So
All
he's
right.
really
Good.
good.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. And what about you, Donna Stoddard? I'm just sitting here looking at you and I'm saying, this is one of the young Caymans that I talk about all the time that we're ushering
Yes.
in to take over the reins of stuff that we're
Yes.
going to need help with. And I'm looking at
Yes.
you thinking, that's exactly what I'm looking at. Am I right?
Thank
1000%.
you.
I think so.
I'll let the audience determine that in
Okay.
my direct report. But I joined the general registry in 2019. So I've been there for about a year and a half now. I work with Paul closely in the compliance unit. Prior to that, I was at Intertrust Corporate Services, and prior to that, SEMA. So I've really been fortunate to have developed a lot of regulatory compliance experience, as well as supplementing that with my academic pursuits and professional qualifications.
And what are those?
So I've got a Master of Arts in Economics, and whilst at university, I discovered this whole idea of compliance and really trying to get a deep understanding of compliance. Is so vast. You have many different sectors, there are many different laws, many different regulations,
Hmm.
best practices, and it's just so interesting to go from sector to sector. So when I was at SEMA, I did regulatory compliance, but within the banking sector. So I think I have a particular skill set that will benefit that would benefit
There's no
general
thinking she
registry.
has it.
So when
Okay,
it first
no,
came up, I
she ain't
applied and
fooling
I'm
nobody.
excited. It was an exciting opportunity and I love what I do and I'm committed to this area.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just excited for the future
Well,
opportunity.
absolutely. I mean, you look like you don't play. I mean, the
I
listening audience,
agree.
they're not sitting across from you. She looks like compliance, like she walked in like I'm not playing with none of y'all. So, and you're a numbers lady, the economics, and I love that. I really love that when I see young women, especially young women that are into that, because I was like the more English, drama, all that stuff in school, like doing all that kind of stuff. Math
Right.
was always kind of my struggle. So I really do love the whole balance of it. So, congrats to both of you. Seems like this general registry here is the compliance department is in good hands. I can tell you that for sure. We will definitely continue this conversation. One more question before we go to the break. There's over 520
Yep.
NPOs, as we're talking about
Yes,
nonprofit
ma'am.
organizations,
Yes, please.
registered in Cayman since 2017.
That's right.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, wow,
Yeah.
right? So at this point, it's more than that, or it's about that 520.
It is more than
I think
520 at the moment.
approximately off the top of my head, it's
Yeah.
about 528,
Wow.
and there are probably about 4 or 5 applications awaiting
In the
review and
queue at the moment.
approval.
Oh,
So
wow,
they're
really?
growing. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, review and a decision,
Yeah.
not
Okay. And
necessarily approval.
okay, and so you have like a board then that it goes to, and so are you the board? The two of you looking at me
Well,
like,
as
what
Paul
board?
as Paul
It's us.
mentioned earlier, the applications come through via the Cayman Business Portal,
Okay.
and so within the department, we see the other side of that.
Okay.
The compliance department as well, general registry as a whole, because we work closer together. We have an assistant registrar, and it's a 3-layer sort of review process. So every application is sort of vetted by 3 different persons before it gets approved.
Okay. Oh, all right. So it's a whole process. Who is the registrar now?
The registrar general is currently Mrs. Cindy Jefferson Bulgin.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So, of these 500 over 520 NPOs that are registered, what types of NPOs would you say that we have in this number? Because it's a pretty vast number. Yeah. And it's probably people that we didn't even imagine that that's what, like we're thinking, oh, that's somebody that's running a business, but actually it's an NPO. So
Hmm.
what are the different kind of diversity that you're seeing?
So we've broken it down into 9 sectors.
Oh, okay.
We have religious organizations, which makes up the bulk of the sector.
Oh, okay.
We
So like
have,
churches and
yep,
stuff?
Agreed.
yep.
Ah,
Hmm.
We
okay.
have educational institutions. We
Okay.
have government bodies like the National Trust, and we have professional associations. We have
Okay.
sporting associations and sporting organizations.
Wow,
We
okay.
have charities. We have philanthropic organizations
And community.
and community organizations.
Now, I see some of them almost feel like they overlap a little bit. How would you know the difference? Like, is there somewhere that we can go to see the different descriptions if someone was interested in doing an NPO, to see what it would be, or do you determine that when you guys look at the applications and the descriptions of what it is that they'd be doing?
So, just to further supplement Paul's comment, so the majority of the sector is made up of religious organizations, followed by community organizations. The NPO Act, I believe it's section 1. The definition of an NPO is there and it states different categories.
Ah, okay.
We have branched out on a couple, but for the most part, it is stated there.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
Yeah,
so it's the branching out of the different categories that you kind of went down the list on.
Yes, but not by
yeah,
much. Most of it's exactly what's in the law.
Okay. So for instance, an educational institution,
right. So we're
like
talking about private schools.
okay.
Yeah, so
Break that
private
down.
schools would be the religious organizations, but we also have
And you call
some.
that the educational, that falls under the religious as well,
n-
or
So
it's
we have
separate?
religious, no, they're
Mhm,
separate. So we have churches that own private schools.
mhm.
So the churches would fall under the religious organization, and the private school would fall under the educational
So
institutions
are you telling me that religion, like that educational institutions, are not for profit?
according to
Purpose and
according to their
activities.
purpose and activities and constitutional document.
Oh,
They aren't
wow.
for profit.
Okay.
They've been set up solely to educate the young, beautiful minds of the Cayman
Well,
Islands.
that's interesting. Oh,
Hmm.
wow. Well,
Yeah,
I learned something new today.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. And then government bodies, like you said, National Trust,
yep,
National Gallery.
Hmm.
yes.
So some NPOs are actually. So is that different than NGO? Is there NGO too, like
Well, non-governmental
non-governmental? Uh
organizations is
huh.
also another term used both domestically and internationally for NGOs are really the organizations that work hand in hand with government
Uh huh.
and
Okay.
are responsible for pushing out for pushing through these more like macro organizations with more macro purposes.
Okay.
We're here in the island, but obviously internationally.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it would kind of be the same thing
it
then, but
kind
it's
of it
not
would
what
be
you
the same
call
thing,
it
but just that we
here.
don't call it NGOs here. We call it NPOs, nonprofits,
Oh.
but
So
they
for
call it
instance,
non-governmental.
like say the National Housing Development Trust, is that an NPO then? Would you call it that? Or would that be
That's more statutory authority
a
set up
that's the
by the
difference.
government.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
that's the difference.
that's the difference. That's kind
Yes,
of what's different than maybe in the US.
exactly.
Somebody might call it an
Hmm.
NGO, but actually it's a statutory
Yes,
authority. Ah,
exactly.
wow. So when did you guys figure all that stuff out? Because it all just seems like, it can be a little confusing,
Of
right?
course. So we had to do this when we did our risk assessment in 2019.
Okay.
We were required. Well, just to put a little context, the this whole impure regime was had to come into play because it's an international obligation being required by the Cayman Islands from one international standard set up for money laundering and terrorist financing called the Financial Action Task Force. As part of one of their recommendations, recommendation 8, all jurisdictions must understand how many MPOs operate within the jurisdiction and that risks associated with the MPO sector to terrorist financing. So we had to do a risk assessment. But in order to do the risk assessment, we had to understand fully the inherent risk located within our MPO sector. So it's important then to break down the sector into these different types of organizations so that we could then look at each organization within that subsector and see the level of risk and the exposure.
Okay. All right. You're listening to Straight Talk. This is your Drive at Five show. Catherine Tyson, your host. And we are actually in the studio with people from the Ministry of Financial Services, in particular General Registries, Head of Compliance, Paul Innes, as well as Senior Compliance Officer, Donna Stoddart. And we are talking about NPOs registered in Cayman. We're talking about all things NPOs as well as an outreach session that will be happening tomorrow at 6 o'clock
That's
at
right.
the Government Administration Building, room 1038. And you'll learn some more about that when we get back from break. So please stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Straight Talk Drive at 5. And welcome back to Straight Talk. This is Catherine Tyson, your host, and this is your Drive at 5 show. We're almost there, folks. Trust me, I know you must be in the thick of traffic right now, and that is something else. But thank you so much for tuning in this afternoon, hanging with me, and on your ride home. We are in the studio talking with the Ministry of Financial Services, General Registry's Head of Compliance, Paul Innes, and Donna Stoddart, who is the Senior Compliance Officer. And we were just talking about all things NPOs. And I'm telling you, I'm learning a lot this afternoon. So I hope you guys are learning a lot as well. If you happen to have a question, 9433700, or wanted to make a comment, or email us at straighttalk at star927kman.ky. Don't be shy. You can actually reach out and let us know what's going on with you. And I hope that you have added us on Facebook, followed us, liked us, whatever it is that we do that you're doing on those on those social media platforms, because we'd love to have that support as well. All right, so back to our conversation, Paul
Hmm.
and Donna. Thank you guys so much for joining me this afternoon. Great to know. And actually,
Thank
they
you.
listened to the show. Isn't that awesome? They said it during the commercial.
Yeah, we do.
We
Tell the
It's a
do.
good
people so they
show.
can
It's a
hear
great
it.
show.
In the traffic, on
Good
the way
That,
drive at
home.
5.
tell them again, Paul Innes, for
It's
the
a
people
great
in the
show,
back.
man. Drive at 5. Yeah.
All right, good stuff. You're missing it today. I hope you go back and look straight on the Straight Talk Drive at 5 or Star 927. Get it on Facebook and share it.
All
That's how
right.
just share it on your Facebook
Sure.
page, and so
Why not?
yeah, you can get people to watch it just to get more information about this stuff, because a lot of times we go to different events throughout the island. We see different things happening. We see
Hmm.
them on Event Pro. We see, things being advertised, and we have no idea like what is it that we're supporting sometimes too. I think,
Exactly.
which is interesting. And so that would then lead me to that question. Um, you were in financial crimes, you said, as a
Yeah,
police officer. Obviously this would be an area that you'd probably have to be very vigilant with, right?
for
Donna,
sure.
you're the a senior compliance officer, so how is it working? Are people pretty honest, and you're finding any problems with people registering as NPO but actually not doing what they said they're going to do, or has it been problematic? Either one of
I'll let ladies
you.
go first.
Either one.
Okay, well, what I can say is that for the most part, a lot of the NPOs that are registered try to comply to the best of their ability. We have a lot of dialogue with the sector, people trying to really understand, um, people coming to the office to try to get clarity. However, we have recently launched our on site inspection regime, and we've conducted so far about 7
Hmm.
inspections. And based on the results, it would appear that there are some serious governance weaknesses
Okay.
within certain NPOs.
Okay.
And this is a concern for the registrar because governance, once you have weaknesses in governance, that can act as a catalyst
Yep.
for certain crimes.
Okay.
We have instances where the registrar has received intelligence regarding misappropriation of funds, misabuse of position,
Okay.
Yep.
and so on and so forth. So the inspection process is really going on site and trying to ascertain what exactly is the NPO doing, looking at its record keeping, and doing other checks in the background to ensure, insofar as we can, that what is happening is legal and in accordance with their purpose and activities.
Okay. So then a question comes out of that.
Hmm.
Um, Most NPOs are, maybe not all of them would have locations though, right?
On every single registration, you are required to provide an address for the NPO. That may be a residential address or a business address.
Right.
In most instances where it's a residential address, we would request that the NPO and their senior leadership team come into our offices.
Okay.
Naturally, this was pre-COVID.
Right.
Um,
And and
Yeah.
and
and
bring
bring all
all.
records,
Okay.
and we sort of go through it in detail.
So that's one of the things, I guess, that would differentiate just a regular business owner with an
Hmm.
NPO, is to really have like accurate records to keep records. Yeah.
I don't think it's a distinguishing factor. I think
and the
it's an
obligations are the same.
overlap. When we say that persons are to take NPOs seriously, we mean that just like you would run your business and you would keep proper records, you keep all your receipts, that sort of record keeping, financial management, that sort of internal control is very important for an NPO because
Okay.
that is where the risk lies, the funding cycle.
Oh, okay. Okay. Another question. You said
Mhm.
you did about seven.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that seven out of 520 something?
Yes, ma'am. We are
Okay.
Well,
we are trying to be strategic and adopting a risk-based approach.
yeah.
Okay, so you're kind of just almost like if you suspect something, then you do that visit. So it's not like I have to cover all visits to every one of the NPOs by a particular time frame. No, that's
No,
not how
the,
you're
the
doing it.
our methodology is risk-based approach,
Okay.
meaning simply that where the risk is higher, we place more emphasis.
Okay.
So all the inspections that we've done so far, ideally when the initial inspections that we've did were all based on those MPOs that based on the purpose and activities and based on the risk assessment and the methodology used to form the risk assessment. Those MPOs that were identified as potentially of a higher risk, we inspected first
Okay.
to give us that assurance that, hey, yes, they may, based on the methodology, they may look as if they have vulnerabilities. So when we visit, we give ourselves some that assurance. Well, there are vulnerabilities here, but here are the risk mitigants in play to mitigate that risk. And where we identify weaknesses, we've placed these MPOs on an action plan. We've assisted them with increasing the internal controls and corporate governance. So the action plan also incorporates us providing them with training, again, templates, reporting thresholds, all these things we give to MPOs when we discover their weaknesses. Because our approach is not a heavy handed one,
Okay.
but an embracive one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's get you online,
exactly.
right? So you basically left being a police officer to be a police officer. That's what it sounds like
Basically.
to me.
Kinda,
It kind
sorta,
of sounds like,
in
yeah,
some
like,
aspects.
yeah, who's head of compliance is somebody who, you're policing pretty much,
Yeah,
but like you said, you are taking, an approach of not, trying to find where you're wrong, but
yeah,
to say, okay, here are some areas that, we want to help you kind of get together. Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
Because the overriding objective is to get to the stage of compliance.
So what type of relationships do you have then with your NPOs? Like, is there some type of relationship that they're able to reach out to you, or you're able to, is it a kind of a collaborative thing, or are they just kind of on their
Definitely.
own? Yeah.
Oh,
Definitely.
certainly,
We get
certainly.
calls all day, every day.
Yeah,
People come to the
emails.
front counter for assistance. We get emails. So we welcome that, so that we can get the entire sector to a
Yeah.
high level of
Of course.
compliance.
Of
But what we
course.
also do, Catherine, is that we visit, we do one on ones with, I mean, I've personally done one on ones with numerous MPOs. I've visited their premises, I've met them in training venues, and I've provided, in some instances, myself, and in some instances, the entire team, we've provided training to their board. So
Okay.
we always have an open arm. We are totally open minded in terms of, because again, the registrar, her approach, and she's a female, yes. So there's always a very embracive approach.
Right.
The intention is not to criminalize anybody. The intention is not to harm anyone, because again, the overriding objective is to get to a state of compliance, because we recognize MPOs provide a true benefit to the community.
All right.
So with that in mind, our role is to train, sensitize, and empower. That's really our role, and that has been our approach from 2017 when this whole process started.
Okay. All right. And so, let me ask you, even during the pandemic,
Yes,
then, you would have had people registering as
yes,
NPOs?
we got.
Yes,
I think
ma'am.
we got at least three registrations during the pandemic.
Really? And so, why would you consider that being significant? Why is that a significant thing that happened
I think
during a
it speaks to
pandemic?
the quality of the community we are, Catherine. It speaks to the quality of people who reside in these islands. The fact that the country is going through a pandemic at that point in time, most people in other parts of the world would have been thinking about, well, of all their mother's children, I'm going to love myself the most and make
Right.
sure that I can get all the toilet paper and the wrappings from the supermarket and hoard and put it in my house. We've seen a totally different approach in the Cayman Islands where people have said, you know what, I am going to out there. In some instances, people risk their personal safety. They've gone out there, they've formed MPOs, they've recognized that they are persons of less fortune than them, and they have made it their business to give and to serve.
Okay.
So that for me is it makes all of this worthwhile when we see persons who are willing to be so selfless and give of themselves. It just speaks highly to the level of community spirit.
I'm going to ask you then, if this is something that you've seen, like both of you've been in this role, you for 3 years, you for a year and a half, you must have seen quite a bit of need that's being served
Yes,
in the
Most
community.
definitely.
Um, you would be good people to talk to about some needs that aren't being served.
of
So,
course.
right?
Yes,
I would think so.
Sure.
Yeah.
definitely.
We welcome applications. The legislation does not preclude um, applications beyond a certain number. So if persons in the public feel convicted and feel driven to serve the public for various different um, in various different ways, feel free to submit an application.
So there's not a cap.
No, ma'am.
No,
Yeah.
because again, government recognizes, Catherine, that government certainly can't do it all,
Hmm.
Right.
and you know, we're founded on the seas, right? That has always been the principal fabric of this society, where not only government but the people of these islands come together collectively in their work and they do and they assist. And if you want to get involved in any NPO, you can apply sanctions and we have the core fabric of our supervision as well. We would encourage everybody who wants to get involved in an NPO to please do, but at the same time understand that there are statutory obligations that you need to consider.
Okay.
And if it is a situation, because yes, we are very open-minded and we have an open arm and we are very embracive, but the legislation does allow us to apply sanctions, and we've seen situations already where we have been prepared to, and in some instances we were forced to apply some level of force to get persons to comply. So we certainly don't want to skew the message that yes, anybody can come and register an MPO. But in doing that, we certainly want you to be aware of your obligations because, as we said, it is for the people's benefit.
Right.
And if you're going to get involved in providing for the people's benefit, then you need to give to the people
Right.
for their benefit.
Right.
And that has to be done in the best possible way.
So if anyone wanted to talk with you or talk with somebody about this, obviously let's talk about the outreach session tomorrow,
Yes,
but also beyond that. So for the people that might not have RSVP'd, and they just really had a question and they needed some guidance and they were seriously interested in doing something that
sure.
could meet a public need, because I like what you said, government can't do everything, and I think people cuss government all the time.
Yeah.
Government should be doing this, should be doing that, and I think government should be doing some things, then they shouldn't be doing some things. So, but there's that's neither here nor there. But you're right. As many hands on deck.
Oh, yeah,
Making the work
for sure.
light. Yeah.
Definitely.
How would they be able to talk with you, or who could they talk to? Is there an email? Is there a phone number? Is there a name? Like, who would they be able to reach out to, and how could they do that?
Well, I have a very exciting, vibrant team here sitting down waiting to deal with whoever wants.
Team of one, or you got a few?
I have a few more in the background who
Okay.
aren't
Okay.
here.
Okay. All
So
right.
we have a generic email address. It is grcompliance@gov.ky. You can send us an email and we'll endeavor to respond as soon as possible.
Yep.
Alternatively, if you prefer direct communication face to face, you can come to the General Registry's front counter and ask to speak to a member of the team
Of
to
the
assist.
compliance team.
Compliance
Yeah.
team. Yep.
Okay.
So
So GR for General Registry. So
That's
yes,
right.
ma'am.
GR compliance at gov.ky.
Yes,
Yes,
All
ma'am.
ma'am.
right. So any questions that you might have if you're listening today and you're interested in possibly doing an NPO, GR compliance at gov.ky, or go to General Registry and ask to speak to somebody from the compliance team. I really, just wanted to really just announce that because I think that what I find a lot, and obviously, I'm all Cayman, right? Like, I want people in Cayman to feel that they have the freedom and the opportunity to do anything that they want to do
Of
and
course.
not just kind of sit back on the sidelines
Yeah.
and watch everybody else do it.
Mhm.
And I work with very vulnerable people who kind of have that attitude sometimes that we can't get anywhere in our own country, and I'm like, stop it. First of all, don't let me hear you say those words again, because even if there is some truth to it, the fact that you keep saying it continues to perpetuate this
Mhm.
truth.
Mhm.
And
Agree.
so how about looking at the truth that you want, which is, this is my country. I am going to do stuff in my country. I am going to thrive in my country. I'm going to grasp opportunities. I'm going to
Yep.
knock on every door. I'm not going to knock on two doors and it doesn't open. I'm going to say, oh, doors don't open. No, that's only two. Keep on knocking.
Mhm.
They're going to get tired of me knocking, right?
Right.
And
Mhm.
so something like this, I'm just like imagining right away. You told me about the nine, kind of categories. And I
Hmm.
just think about, how many of them might not be, just indigenous Caymanians per se. And the opportunities are there. So,
There.
do
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah. And just know that it is a serious thing, and it's something that's going to require, that you have, processes and
Mhm.
stipulations and
Hmm.
everything else, and but not to shy away from that, because it's very, very necessary.
For sure.
So I really appreciate this conversation this afternoon, actually, to just educate the public on that.
Yeah.
Donna.
And to add to your point, it is serious, but it's not difficult.
Right.
You have the tools at your fingertips. Their general registry website is a really good source of information. We try to update it as quickly as possible. We are available for any questions that you might have. And most importantly, I'd like to highlight that no dollar is insignificant. Sometimes a dollar is all it takes.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
we have a lot of people that think, okay, I don't have a lot of money. I can't get a lot of money. But sometimes money is not what is needed.
Of
Right.
course.
Sometimes it's time.
Right.
Yep.
Sometimes it's an elderly person that just wants somebody to speak to go for a
Exactly.
walk.
You
Yep.
bet.
So there are a range of ideas,
Yeah.
but the most important part is it's for the public benefit
Right.
and it's to protect the integrity of the sector and not only that, the reputation of these islands.
Right. Absolutely. What's the website?
General Registry,
Hmm.
www.generalregistry.ky.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But
Pretty
if you just
simple.
type in General Registry Cayman Islands,
It comes
it'll
right
come up.
up. I,
Yeah.
I, I tell the young people all the time, listen, Google, no one can tell me anything that I don't know. As they're talking, I'm Googling.
Yeah.
I'm like, how
That's
do you
right
not
there.
know that?
Of
I,
Get
course.
off of Instagram.
It is
Go
right there.
Google something.
I
But
joke
it's
with my
true.
mom at home. Google knows everything.
It's true. And I know everything because of Google. So, yeah, there's no reason to not know anything in this day and
Yeah.
age.
The
It's
information
just,
age is
it's
here.
literally at your fingertips.
Of course.
So now, I wanted to just remind everybody about this outreach session that they can come to tomorrow.
So the outreach session takes place tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. in room 1038, ground floor at the government admin building. That's on Elgin Avenue, on the opposite side of the immigration. This big, big building when you're going on Elgin Avenue.
Right.
That's the government building. Come through the door, tell the security you're here for the presentation, and they will direct you to room 1038.
Okay.
Session starts at 6 p.m. and goes until 7:30. And please bring your smartphones because we're going to be using a particular app to gather your feedback and interaction in terms of the material being presented.
Okay. And so if they have not RSVP'd and they might be listening now and interested, what do they need to do?
As the Rastas would say, come true.
Just
Just
come.
show up.
Just show up,
Okay.
come
So
true.
just
We don't turn back nobody.
well, I suppose it's too many.
Well, then we may be faced with that. But we've not seen the situation already where too many persons have turned up.
Okay. All right.
Because again, and that's why we do several of these sessions because a lot of people involved in NPOs, a lot of people are busy with their personal lives and everything else.
Right.
So we do multiple sessions for that reason. So if you missed this one, certainly we will be providing others in the future. But as Donna said, if you miss the session, you can go on the website, you can download the presentation, you can pick up the phone, you can call us, you can come and you can have a discussion, you can give us a call. We're here
Right.
for you.
But it will not be available until after the session. So don't go
Yes.
looking for it now. Go to the session actually, not a minute before it's done. And how
Yeah.
long will it take? How long will the session be? What are you
Hour and
imagining?
a half.
Hour and a half.
Yeah.
So that probably means
And it's gonna
two.
go very quickly.
That probably means 2 hours Cayman time. And if it starts at 6, try to tell the people it's 5:30 because it can start at 6:30. People do better, okay? It's at 5:45. Get to the government administration building. Room 1038 is on the
10:38.
ground floor
That's right.
and it's tomorrow. Okay, so tomorrow, Wednesday.
Yes.
Yes?
Wednesday,
All right.
the
What are you
31st.
guys doing for Easter? Not together, obviously, separately.
Honestly,
What are
I
you doing?
haven't even
Easter.
thought about it.
Real too busy complying,
Too
between
busy complying,
going
and
visiting people
my
and seeing
husband
what
and
they're
I have a
doing.
daughter. She's 7 months, so
Oh,
we are
awesome!
booked.
Yeah, she's got you. She got you
Yeah.
on lock.
Yeah,
But you're gonna have her now for the whole weekend, which will be awesome. So you'll get to
true.
see
We'll
her.
probably pop out to the beach.
That's
We
nice.
have a Easter hunt. My mom is planning an Easter hunt for the kids.
I
So
like how she said that. My husband and I have a
Yeah.
daughter.
yeah, because I tend to say I have a daughter,
And he's like,
but
"Oh,
it's
really?"
really our daughter, but
Yes.
it's my daughter.
Oh, of course.
I
That
have
was
to work.
nice though. It wasn't like it was almost like, yeah,
Yeah.
she's
I'll be
kind of
working
half
We're
during
a
the
his
team
Easter though.
for
too.
sure.
So what will you be doing, you say?
I'll be working. We got some international obligations coming up, so
Okay.
all hands on deck. We got to get it done.
So you're not going to be enjoying
I'll be enjoying
your
it,
time.
just that there some aspects of it will be in the office and
Okay.
then other parts will be home.
All right. Well, she'll get some
Yeah, yeah.
extra sand and sea for you
That's fine.
Most
I'll hold
to
the
definitely.
tell
grind.
you about
I hold the
it.
grind until everybody comes back on Tuesday.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, definitely. So tomorrow, outreach session for the NPOs, which is the nonprofit organizations that are in the Cayman Islands, or if you're interested in learning, if you happen to have an NPO and you want some information, or
Hmm.
you might have had it now for a little while, but there are
Right.
some things where you're not 100% up on, and you're like, maybe yeah, let me go and see if there are some new things that have come out,
Yep.
right? That's always good.
Of course.
As well as if you're interested in starting one and you thought about it and you think, oh no, I'd never be able to do that, this would be a great opportunity to go out
Of course.
and hear. Will both of you be there?
We
Yes, mom.
certainly will be.
Paul and Donna, will you have like other members of your team as well?
Yes,
Yes.
mom.
Okay. All right. So, because they keep talking about the team,
Yeah.
it's like what, two people, another two?
Two other persons. Yeah.
Okay.
Who
All
work with
right.
us.
Yeah, because and since COVID, what has been some of the changes you've seen with even with NPOs, but just overall, in terms of compliance because of COVID? Because like you said, things had changed. You mentioned that earlier, Donna. Things had changed due to COVID. What are some of those changes you think?
I think people are becoming more aware gradually of their legal obligations, and not only that, international best practices. So during the lockdown, for example, from COVID, we issued an advisory because there was a increase in scams. People were trying to scam charities worldwide and locally as well. So I think people are becoming more aware. People are asking questions.
Hmm.
People are showing up and trying to really understand what the risk is, because the risk domestically is quite low. It's internationally that it lies.
Oh wow,
The risk of
really,
terrorist financing, but not the risk of thieving.
Yes, not
I
really.
the
just want to
risk
make
of
that clear.
theft.
Oh, okay. All right.
The
So
risk of thieving is not low because we've seen situations in this country where, unfortunately, persons have abused MPOs by stealing. So that
ah,
risk is certainly high, but
and
the risk of terrorist financing is low.
Hmm.
and so are and do they generally have that from within? You think is it generally like
More
within the
often than not,
organization?
Yes.
more often than not, it is a governance issue
Hmm.
Yeah.
and it is manipulated by somebody who is actually part of the internal organization.
So
Appreciate.
that would be also something that you'll be talking about, you'll be
Certainly.
highlighting
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
tomorrow.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, because I
Definitely.
think that would be that's some really good information because, the people that you bring on board that are working in your organization,
Hmm.
you have to be so vigilant as well,
Yes.
right? To do proper diligence, due diligence,
Make
right?
sure they're
Yeah, you're
fit and
talking
Um,
the right
proper.
talk there, my friend.
yeah,
That's what I'm
and not
talking about.
just assume that, oh
Hmm.
yeah, that's a nice guy, that's a nice
Yeah,
girl,
know
they'll
my
be
mommy,
fine.
my daddy,
No.
papa, this body, know this
Yeah.
body, that body, know this body,
Yeah,
auntie, mommy,
when
that kind
there's
of thing.
money involved,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
especially money that's supposed to go to a particular thing, now it's on you to ensure that that's exactly what it's going for.
Yep.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So yeah, so it's pretty serious. It's not, like you said, it's not difficult. It's something that you don't play with.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
don't
Yeah.
play with people. You don't play with people's belief in you because
Hmm.
if
Exactly.
you're doing and it
Yep.
doesn't happen,
It's
then
a distrust.
then you're affecting everybody else who might be trying. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I was also a police officer. You called me Catherine Taylor or Tatum. You watched the
Yeah.
show. You listened to the show.
That was my bad.
You
I,
listened to the show.
I jumped on my knees and I apologize quick for calling the wrong name.
I mean, yes,
Yes, it's T, but not a Tatum.
for
It's
sure.
Tyson.
Thank you all so much for joining me this afternoon. Also, for you all for listening in. I know you would have learned a lot about NPOs, the nonprofit organizations. And tomorrow, there will be that outreach session. It's going to be tomorrow, which is the 31st of March on Wednesday. And it's
Mhm.
going to be at the Government Administration Building at 6 p.m., 5:45. Wink, wink. Email them at GR, that's like General Registry, GR compliance at gov.ky, or check out their website. And their website,
Yep.
or just Google it, what you need. You all again tomorrow. Tomorrow it will be Wednesday. I'm saying